For this lesson, we're going to be talking about Andy Goldsworthy. Andy Goldsworthy was born July 25, 1956. He is known for his installations involving natural materials. Take a moment to look at the artwork. When I first saw this, the first thing I see is the really rich black in the middle and the really bright colored leaves. I thought it looked like a painting. Then you notice the texture in the ground and the detail in the leaves, and when you realize it's a photograph, it's hard to understand how this artist was able to get this really high contrast, this really rich black by just taking a picture with natural materials. When I learned a little bit more about Andy Goldsworthy, I realized that this is something that shows up a lot in his artwork, and it is actually a hole in the ground. And you can see in this video how Andy Goldsworthy is just finding these leaves and placing them in a circle around the hole in the ground. So he did have to think about things like if the wind were to blow too hard, it could mess up this sculpture. All of these sculptures are not permanent. His photographs make them permanent, but what he's actually creating is not going to last forever. And there's really a beauty in that. You can see how this idea repeats in some of his other works.
The black hole has been a reoccurring form in my work since 1976. I was digging in a sand dune in Southport, physically burrowing into the sand dune, and the ceiling kind of collapsed in, and I kind of crawled out, and it left this very small hole in the crust of sand that had formed on top of the dune. And it was just such a beautiful black, and it was like I'd opened a window into the ground, into the material. So it was a really big discovery. I work with a landscape that's been made rich by the people who've worked in it before me, and I would hope that I have left parts of it a little richer because of what I've done.
When I first saw these sculptures, I couldn't understand how they were made with just using natural materials. And it's really amazing what Andy Goldsworthy does by connecting these pieces of icicles together. You can see how he's breaking them into the size that he needs them to be and then connecting them together. So they're really fragile sculptures, but they make such a beautiful piece of art.
I wish I'd reached this point about an hour ago, before the sun had risen. What is extraordinary that I didn't expect, but could only have dreamt of happening, is that the sun coming from there shines completely on both sides of the rock. So all the icicle is illuminated against that cliff, and I never had any idea that would happen.
If you look at this photograph, this sculpture is really unique because if you split it in half, the top half of this sculpture is just all of these different twigs and sticks that are balancing together, and the bottom half of this sculpture is the reflection of what we're seeing on the top. So the rest of it is in the water, but it makes this perfect circle because of the reflection that we're actually seeing. And in this video that we're going to watch, you're going to see that it is not just an easy task what this artist is doing. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't, and sometimes totally having to redo it.
When I make a work, I often take it to the very edge of its collapse. And that's a very beautiful balance. Right.
So we're going to make our own sculptures, and I have done a similar lesson with students before, and these two pictures, this one here and this picture, were photographed by previous students. So we went outside and we just found different materials to work with and create sculptures. They don't have to be very big sculptures. It's totally up to you how much you want to build or how much you want to do. But these are on a fairly small scale and just kind of zoomed in when we took the pictures. So our goal is to use all natural materials to create a sculpture. But we also don't want to disrupt nature. So that means that we want to find items that are already on the ground and not items that we're actually pulling that are still growing. We don't want to pull leaves and flowers that are still a part of a plant. And just be creative. So have fun with this. And if you don't want to build outside, if you want to collect some materials, you can bring it inside and maybe create a little sculpture inside your home and take a picture of it. You can use whatever you have available to take a picture. So if that is your Chromebook, then you might want to build something inside. But if you're able to take a phone or camera outside, then enjoy being outdoors and creating a sculpture that you know is not going to last forever, but you can create a really nice photograph that will.